All right, let's dive into some of the big ideas from Morgan Housel's incredible book, The Psychology of Money. We're going to break down something that sounds kind of crazy at first. When it comes to money, how you behave is way more important than how smart you are.
Okay, to get us started, here's a little puzzle that really gets to the heart of the whole book. Imagine two people. One is a brilliant, super educated tech executive. The other, a humble janitor from a small town. Now, who do you think ends up wealthier? The answer, well, it's probably not what you're thinking. So to answer that question, we're going to look at two true stories. And on the surface, these two people could not be more different. But when you put them side by side, they reveal this incredible secret about how wealth is actually built and, just as importantly, how it's lost. Okay, so on one side, you've got this tech executive, a guy so smart and so rich that he, and I'm not kidding, used to throw gold coins into the ocean just for fun. He ended up totally bankrupt. And then you have Ronald Reed. He was a janitor, he fixed cars, he swept floors, he just saved the little bits of money he could and patiently invested them. And when he died, he left an $8 million fortune.
So what on earth is going on here? The big takeaway is this. Managing money isn't like physics. It's not a hard science. It's a soft skill. And how you behave is the only thing that matters. Ronald Reed's patience beat the executive's genius, hands down. Your personal relationship with things like greed and patience, that has a much bigger impact on your outcome than any fancy spreadsheet ever will. Okay, so if it's all about behavior, then we've got to understand why we act the way we do with our money. Why do some of us make decisions that look completely crazy to everyone else? Well, the book argues that nobody is actually crazy. What seems like a totally reckless financial move to you might make perfect sense to somebody else based on their unique life. Think about it. If you grew up when inflation was sky high, you're going to view debt way differently than someone who grew up during a massive stock market boom. It's our personal histories, not some textbook, that write the rules for how we think about money. And beyond just our personal experiences, there are two other massive, almost invisible forces that are constantly pulling the strings in our financial lives, whether we see them or not. Let's talk about Bill Gates. Obviously a genius. But his success wasn't just about genius. It was also about unbelievable luck. In 1968, he just happened to go to one of the only high schools in the entire world that had a computer. But risk is the flip side of that coin. Gates' best friend, a kid named Kent Evans, was just as brilliant. They were gonna start Microsoft together, but he was tragically killed in a mountaineering accident before they graduated. Same school, same talent, but one was hit by a dose of incredible luck, and the other by a dose of horrible risk. All right, now let's get into what is probably the single most powerful, but also the most underestimated force in building real, lasting wealth. And spoiler alert, it's not about finding some secret stock tip. It's way more fundamental than that. The book uses this amazing analogy for this concept. Think about how an ice age starts. It wasn't one single catastrophic winter. Nope. It was just thousands and thousands of years where the summers were just a little cooler than average, so the snow from the winter before never completely melted. That tiny, tiny advantage repeated over and over again for a long, long time is what created ice sheets a mile thick. And that right there is compounding. So, how does this ice age thing play out in real life? Well, there's no better example than one of the most famous investors of all time, Warren Buffett. Look, everybody knows Warren Buffett is a brilliant investor. We got it. But his real secret weapon isn't just his skill, it's time. Just look at these numbers. Of his roughly $84.5 billion net worth, the vast majority of it, we're talking over 90%, was earned after he was old enough to get Social Security benefits. He's been investing since he was a kid. His superpower isn't just picking stocks. It's staying in the game long enough for that tiny advantage to turn into a giant ice sheet. So you see, getting wealthy is one thing, but the psychology of staying wealthy, that's a completely different skill. And honestly, it's probably a lot harder. This quote from the author Joseph Heller just nails the hardest financial skill there is: getting the goalpost to stop moving. He was at a party once and someone pointed out that a hedge fund manager there made more in a single day than Heller's famous novel Catch-22 had made in its entire history. And his response was just perfect. The big danger here is what the book calls social comparison. There is always somebody out there with more than you. It's a game you literally cannot win. So how do you win? You just refuse to play. Take the story of Rajat Gupta, a former CEO of McKinsey. The guy was a multimillionaire. He had everything. But he looked around and saw his peers becoming billionaires. And that comparison, that feeling of not having enough, led him to insider trading. It destroyed his entire career and reputation, all because he didn't know when to say, I have enough.
So, what is the real goal of money then? What's the point of all this? It's not a bigger house, it's not a faster car, it's control. It's freedom. It's the simple, incredible ability to wake up and have control over your own time and your own choices. That's the highest dividend money can ever pay.
And that feeling of control brings us to the final, really critical idea from the book. We have to totally rethink what wealth even is. Because, as it turns out, the most important parts of it are the parts you can't even see.
Okay, quick thought experiment. You're walking down the street and a brand new, super flashy Ferrari drives past. Now be honest, is your first thought, wow, the person driving that car is so cool? Or do you immediately start picturing yourself behind the wheel? This is what the book calls the man in the car paradox. It's so good. We buy expensive things because we want other people to admire us. But in reality, they almost never do. They just use our stuff as a new benchmark for what they want. The signal we're desperately trying to send out, hey, admire me, it almost never gets received.
And this really highlights the huge difference between being rich and being wealthy. See, being rich is visible. It's your current income, it's the fancy car, the big house. It's about spending. But wealth is invisible. Wealth is the money you haven't spent. It's the savings, the investments that are quietly compounding in the background, giving you options. Rich is for show. Wealth is for freedom.
And so we come all the way back to this idea. At the end of the day, this is the real power of wealth. It's not the car, it's not the house, it's the autonomy to live your life on your own terms. It's all those unseen assets that are buying you control over your own time. And that, right there, is the core question the psychology of money leaves us with. The next time you make a financial decision, ask yourself, what are you really buying here? Are you buying temporary things to show people your status, or are you buying your own long-term freedom? It's a really powerful question, and it's definitely something worth thinking about.